Hi everyone, welcome to this week's health tip. This is Dr. Marco. We're going to do part two of our interview with our nutritionist Mary. So we're going on her little autism sort of recovery story with her son. So last week we
Mhm.
found out about what the initial things happened with her son and how she kind of initially sort of saw that something was wrong. And now we're going to go into like what she, after she found out, okay, it was an autism diagnosis, what did she do? What steps did she take to kind of help her son recover? So you said, like I said, from the story you mentioned, most kids around like 3 to 5 is when they're getting diagnosed these days. Your son was more or less around 10, even though he did have behaviors and things that they called learning challenges and things previously. So when they
Mhm.
finally did say that, what did you kind of do? What were the first things you kind of thought of, and what did you look for, and how to help your son?
Okay. So actually, prior to going to the doctor, what I did is, if you remember in the previous, what do you say, interview, I had talked about is I had a friend who had a son with autism. So I actually went to that friend first before I went to the doctor.
That makes sense.
And what I did is I talked to her just a bit so that I got a little bit more sense about autism.
Yeah.
And then she gave me a book. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember the name of the book, but it was written by a doctor who sort of specializes in autism. So I took that book and I started reading that book just to sort of get a little sense of, is it really autism?
Right.
So when I read more about it, I realized maybe my son has autism, but he's on the high functioning side of it. So that's when I then went back to my son's pediatrician, who's a development disability pediatrician, and I said, Doctor, I think my son may have autism. I'm not sure. Can you please test him? So after the testing, the doctor confirmed that my son has autism and that he is on the higher spectrum. So after that, I was like, now what do I do? Like, I don't know anybody who has autism. I don't know what I need to do.
Right.
So what I did is the first thing I did is I went to my family physician and I said, Doctor, my son has been diagnosed with autism. What is your recommendation? So my doctor said, put him on medication. And personally, from my own experience, I have been on medication in the past and I was not finding a solution. Like I had very severe, what do you say, gastrointestinal issues, and doctor prescribed medication after medication after medication, and it's not working. So I personally was just fed up and I didn't want to put my son through it. And another thing I also noticed is when my son got diagnosed with autism, I had joined some parent support group, and I was listening to other parents, what they were doing. And I noticed a lot of parents were medicating the children, but I wasn't noticing anybody saying my child was feeling better.
Right.
So I thought about it this way is when you take medication, there's a lot of side effects. I don't want to put my child through a trial and error to figure out if the medicine works or not. So I decided I am not going to, what do you say, give him medicine. I'm going to look at a natural way of helping him. So what I did is obviously I met with a nutritionist, and what we did is we worked as a family rather than me just focusing on my son, because we wanted to make sure that we are all healthy as a family, and then that way we can support our son much better.
Right.
And then what I also did is I did go to the library and any book that said autism, I brought it home because I needed to read and really
Right.
educate myself.
Yeah.
And another thing I would say is for parents is when you get the diagnosis, uh, I'll be very, what do you say, candid about it is I had great expectations for my son, correct? And then the diagnosis really crashed all those expectations.
Yeah.
And so at that point in time, I was worrying is what is going to happen to my son. But that was it. And then after that, I said, okay, it is what it is.
Let's
I
go.
can't change the diagnosis. I can't do anything about it. The only thing I can do is I can find a solution. So
Right.
that's when I started to really educate myself, but not only educate myself, I had to educate my husband because my husband didn't think my son had autism.
Right.
He just thought he was just being a boy.
Right.
So I had to make sure that my husband understood so that he could support me
Yeah.
in this journey
It's
of
changed.
helping my son. So that's very important because a lot of the times, I mean, there are parents who are like in denial or they don't think that's the case.
Right.
But the faster we accept it, the better, because then we can really get down to solution, you
Yeah.
know? And so that's what I did is started reading a lot about really understanding what to do and then working very closely with a nutritionist to see how we can implement changes that is going to actually impact the entire family. So it wasn't just, I'm going to do something for my son and then we are going to be doing something else. No, it was a goal that all of us are going to do the same thing, what we're doing for our son, so that we all get healthy.
Right. And so what kind of like practical things did you actually change? Was it just eliminating things
Absolutely.
or adding things, or what did you do?
So yes, you have to make major changes, because the thing is, my son used to drink a lot of milk. Okay, he used to eat a lot of snacks. He's eating a lot of like junk food, and you know what? As a parent, and I hear this with a lot of parents too, is at that point when you're going through that situation, you're thinking, as long as my child is eating something, I don't care whatever he's eating. At least something is going inside his body. I don't want him to go hungry.
Right,
So
right.
whatever he wanted, I would just give it to him, not realizing that I actually was not helping him.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the first thing we did is we got rid of the snacks, because anything processed is full of sugar
Yeah.
and it's actually not good for their health. And then I
Inflammatory.
eliminate, and there is a lot of inflammation in the body, correct? So I eliminated a lot of the what do you say, uh, gluten foods, removed what do you say, milk, like casein products.
Dairy.
And then this is the best way to do it, is out of sight, out of mind, which means if you don't have those foods
Yeah.
in the house, my son can't go to the pantry and grab it and eat it,
Sneak it.
correct? So
Exactly.
it was like throw it away,
Yeah.
no pop,
Don't
no
pocket.
fruit juices, and put all healthy options in the fridge that are easily accessible.
Right.
And I will also tell you something. This is not an easy journey.
Of
You're
course.
going to get a lot of crying,
A lot
a
of
lot of meltdown,
snack.
a
Yeah.
lot of fighting with you, a lot of name calling.
Mm-hmm.
As a parent, you have to be very, very tough,
Yeah.
and you cannot give up.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is this is a journey. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
It's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in a month.
Yeah.
But if you give up, then you can't help your child, right? So
Right.
I had a tough time. There would be times when I would cook a healthy meal, and my son is like, Mom, I hate you. I hate your food. I'm not going to eat it. And he would just walk away.
Yeah.
And then what I would do is I would pack up the food, because I knew he was not going to eat it. And I don't want to be arguing with him, because then we would be screaming at each other.
Yeah.
But then I would keep it in the fridge, because I knew after some time he would be hungry.
Yeah.
And then at that point in time, he would come and look for food, and then
Hmm.
he can eat the meal.
Yeah.
So there were times when he would skip one meal, he would skip 2 meals,
Ooh.
but I just stuck to, I guess, what I believed in and what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
so that I could change that habit. Otherwise, there is no way. I know there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of like throwing tantrums, but you have to just weather that storm, if I would say.
Yeah, that's true. And that's the funny thing too, sometimes that because they're not eating, they're kind of fasting a little bit too. So that might have been helping the journey along as well in a little bit in a certain way, right? Shifting
Absolutely. It's
shifting some
healing
of the
the
heavy
gut, it's
stuff into the
healing the
kids' cold
brain.
foods. Yeah, because
Yes, yes.
there's a whole documentary on Netflix. I don't remember what it was, but they tried to go to a ketogenic diet with a kid. It was like horrible for days and days and days. And all of a sudden one day broccoli was great and all the chicken and everything was all great. But before that it was like such a storm for the parents. But they had, like you say, you really, really have to totally commit, dedicated to it, and know it's going to be a process and a long one. It's not quick at all, right? Very
Not
true.
at all, not at all. And it's tough. It's tough. I'm telling you, there are days when I was like, am I being a good mom? Am I being
Right.
too difficult on my child? Like, you have those guilty feeling, and you're thinking, is this gonna work? Like, we don't know.
Yeah,
So, but I said, you know
that's the
what?
other thing too. You go through all this hell, and then if it doesn't work on the other end of it, it's like, well, I did all that stuff and nothing. So, but I know that about, like, from my understanding, about 70 to 80% of all people that have an autistic kid, if they eliminate gluten and dairy, that's usually kind of the biggest thing that makes the biggest change in a lot of kids. Like some kids are not even speaking, and they do that consistently. Sometimes they might start getting words and things like coming out, right? So. Just out
Definitely.
of curiosity with you, was there one specific thing you noticed that made the biggest difference yourself as well, or?
Definitely, I would say is the behaviors started to sort of go down. So, like my son previously would have multiple meltdowns during the day, like, and anything could trigger him, like, and those were like, he was like, how would I say, severe in the sense that when he had a meltdown, oh my God, you don't want to be near him because he will break things, throw things, get angry. So, and those were like multiple times during the day, which is very, very stressful. So the first thing I noticed is starting to become much calmer. That was the first thing, which to me was like a blessing because at least I had some hours of silence
Yeah,
and no like
exactly.
screaming and
Yeah.
screeching, because that's what used to be my day every
Right.
day.
Right. So they're starting to self-regulate, those kind of things that were starting to kind of kick in a little bit with him. As
Mhm,
far as like
mhm.
nutritionally, was there one thing you noticed that made the biggest change? Like one of like was it taking out dairy, taking out gluten, bit of both, or was there or
I took out all dairy, I took out all gluten, I also took out all processed food, and I started cooking at home. Yes, it was a challenge. I was a busy mom. I was working full time and trying to take care of two children.
yeah,
But what I did is I said, I have to be committed to doing this because otherwise it's not going to work. So I started doing like bulk cooking on the weekends, and then I would freeze them so that I had a meal every day for my child. And that really helped because the thing is that a lot of these kind of foods also have a lot of sugar. And that's the reason why nowadays, like, you hear children saying, why are they not able to focus? Why are they so hyper at school? And we don't even need to talk about autism. We just need to talk about normal children. And it's because from morning till night, they are being fed sugar, 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 sugar. And we
insulin.
don't realize it that even our protein, like our meats, our vegetables, our fruits, they all have natural sugar already in it.
Yeah.
And then we give them cupcakes and cheese strings and what is it, cookies and muffins, sugar, 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 and cereals. All that has too much sugar.
Right, right. That's so what would be like a diet of a typical day, would you say, back then? What kind of
So,
because some
so
parents say
you definitely.
the biggest panic is all the parents say, if I eliminate all that stuff, what's left to cook? That you hear that complaint often too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Now, one more thing I will tell you is you have to do one thing at a time. So don't try to do all the changes together
Right.
because
Yes.
children with autism do not like change. Okay.
Yeah.
So here are some parenting tips.
Mhm.
So do one thing at a time. Secondly, try to sort of give them advance notice. That's what they like. They don't like change, correct? So I know my son used to really like to cook, so I would say, oh, today we're going to cook something. So talk to him about it. So I'm trying to sort of get him to start thinking about that food in a positive way. Okay. And then what you do, simple, water is your best drink. So try to avoid any of the pop juices. Juices are even worse because they're concentrated sugar. Okay. And you can always have alternatives that I can definitely recommend. And then what you do is if you look at a plate, this is what you need to do is you need to focus on protein and good protein. So you can be doing chicken, you can be doing beef, you can be doing pork, you can be doing tofu, you can do what do you say, fish. Fish is actually very good, So you can have different kind of protein. Egg is actually a very good full protein. So if, in doubt, you don't know anything to cook, boil
Right.
an egg. That's the
Right.
easiest you can do, correct?
Right.
And every meal has to look the same because every meal you need to have protein. And then with vegetables, it sometimes can be challenging. So start with the vegetable that your child likes. They normally will eat one, whatever vegetable it is, at least focus on giving more of that vegetable to them, right? And then make sure that you can have some kind of good fat. Now, I know that a lot of children may also have nut allergy, so you may not be able to give them nuts, correct? But what you can do is put good natural oils when you're putting. So rather than putting a little bit of the oil, put a little bit of more oil in when you're cooking so that there is more fat. Because people have a misconception that we shouldn't be eating fat. You actually need fat for different parts of your body, right? So, but using natural fat is important. And the thing is, if your child doesn't have nut allergy, then you can give them some nuts. Almonds are really good.
Yeah.
Walnuts are really good. Macadamia nuts are really good. And also, and you can give them some fruits, so fruit has natural sugar, but it's better
Right.
than giving them Cheerios, Nutella, and all those kind of things. So that's the way the plate should look like.
Mhm.
And that should be like a lunch, what do you say? No, sorry, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So normally we have this in our mindset is breakfast is normally toast or, cereal. No. Oh, you can actually add oatmeal if they like oatmeal. If they
Okay.
don't like oatmeal, then it would be like some form of protein, some form of vegetable, some form of fat.
Yeah.
And don't worry if some days it's like it's only a protein, that's fine. Or it's only a vegetable, that's all right. So don't get stressed out
Yeah, of
if you
course.
can have all those three food groups,
Yeah.
because eventually when you start to do this on a regular basis,
Mhm.
you will start to get a hang of it. And I can definitely provide support on how to do that.
Yeah.
But don't get stressed out. Oh my God, I have to have all these things on the plate on the day one.
Yeah.
It may not happen, correct?
Right.
So it's all right as long as it's nutritious, and try to sort of cook more like stir frying, steaming, baking,
Right.
rather than frying all the time, correct?
Right.
Because that is not good for
Mhm.
their health.
Awesome. Okay. So one last thing, what would you say to other parents or mothers of children that have autistic kids, if they're just finding out now, what would you say should be maybe their first steps, or what do you think they could do?
So the first step is don't give up hope. That's the most important thing, correct?
Sure.
And I always say this is, yes, autism is a diagnosis. Your child will always have autism, correct? But the thing is that what we are going to do as a parent is help them to develop skills so that as they grow older, they will actually be able to take care of themselves. Because that's the biggest worry parents have. What's
Right.
going to happen to my child when I'm gone?
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to find a job? Are they going to be able to live on by themselves? So the thing is that I can definitely tell you from my own experience is that that's exactly what I was thinking, correct? And I was willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that my son is independent.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm sharing this is because I'm a living example. My son is 20 years old now. He was diagnosed when he was 10.
Mhm.
He is completely independent. He's studying to be a massage therapist. He
Cool.
studies by himself.
Mhm.
He's driving by himself. He's actually found a summer job and he goes to work himself driving.
Okay.
So you can see that if you persist and you implement certain changes, you will notice that your child will start to thrive. And after some time, you won't even know that your child has autism.
Right. That's awesome. It's very good. Cool. All right, Mary, that was a great interview, and hopefully that gives some hope to parents and some guidance. Like we always say, just try to stick to natural, real foods, and that's a big first step, obviously. And you give them some good recommendations of what the plate should look like, so that's very helpful tips too. And I'm glad we were able to connect like this and maybe get this information out to the public. So appreciate your time. All right, so if you found that video helpful for you, please share it if you know any other family that might need to hear some of this information. And Mary was also saying one other thing, other than providing nutritional advice, she could actually offer parenting advice because she's gone through this whole process and knows kind of the pros and cons and things to do and things not to do. So you could reach out to her as well for that aspect of it, which is very, very important because I just know a lot of these parents are bringing their kids to me and you just see that look on their face like they're just at their wits' end sometimes and they don't know how to handle certain situations. So some sage advice from somebody who went through it that might be very helpful as well. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks and take care.